and welcome to a football podcast with myself, Sean Kay, and Stephen Caldwell. Today we chat about Villa's return to the Premier League, Toronto FC in San Jose, LAFC's dominance against Montreal, Vancouver's win against FC Dallas, Champions League finals, and more. As you can notice, KJ is not with us today. He's currently on his way back from the Indy 500 and crying tears of joy as Villa got promoted today. But we were lucky to be joined with a former playoff winner and goal scorer, Wade Elliott. Wade, thank you so much for coming in today.
Thanks for having me.
Before we get into the match, this weekend was the 10-year anniversary of you guys being promoted. I saw you guys retweeting and posting about it. How was it this weekend?
We had a great weekend, to be honest. It was actually coincidence that we were together. It wasn't anything planned because of the anniversary, but we're very good friends. We played at two clubs together. We had great success at Burnley and then pretty good success at Birmingham as well. So we're extremely close. We try and hang out once a year. Wade loves Toronto. It's a tremendous city, and it was a coincidence that it was this weekend, but we reminisced and enjoyed it, didn't we, Wade?
Love Toronto. We had an amazing day. So we spent the whole afternoon reminiscing like old men about old times.
We looked like old men.
We looked like by about 7 o'clock. We looked like really old men. And then we ended up at the Raptors. So me and another friend were at the Raptors in the evening. So it was a pretty good way to spend the anniversary.
At the game.
Yeah, we were at the game. Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah, what a moment!
It was amazing. I'd be disrespectful. I had no idea what was happening. But at one point, they were about 50. I was working out the averages. I was thinking, if the Bucks keep going, they're going to end up on about 120 points. And I know nothing about basketball, but I know that's a lot. And they just started to claw it back. The momentum shifted and it changed. And we were really privileged to be there. It was an incredible experience.
Yeah. If you were to go back and talk about how you guys won and the atmosphere there and outside, and then where the Raptors are, how was it different? Is it the same? What do you think of the atmosphere?
It's actually a pretty good question. I think
a brilliant question.
It's different being in an arena, isn't it? It's pretty electric being in that closed building, and especially when it's, I think there's about 19,500, 20,000 in the Scotiabank Arena, and I've been there myself a few times. I wasn't at the game. I was actually in Real Sports, but Wade and Jay were at the game, and the atmosphere inside that arena when it gets going is absolutely incredible. But nothing compares to Wembley. There's 90,000 people there. The thing about the playoff game is the build up to it as well, the full season, the playoff campaign. You get there, it's a day out for everybody as well. And you sort of live that day from the first moment, don't you? When you wake up to when you're hopefully successful and you lift the trophy.
Yeah, it's massive. It's different when you're inside it because the impact it has on you. The only difference in the atmosphere I found is the effect of the away fans. Yeah. Obviously, geographically, this is so vast, and it's a different dynamic at home because it's much
feel
more
the momentum more.
Yeah, and it's much more territorial.
Yeah,
and I've been to games and you don't see what's going on the pitch because you're watching the crowd half the time. You're seeing what's going on, and
it's more of an event.
Yeah, that sort of drives it on. But the similarity I found was afterwards. We came out onto the street and it was incredible. It was party central. It was unbelievable. It was so well mannered and good spirited. And I always remember the bus tour.
Yeah,
we had an open top bus around Burnley 1 or 2 days after the game. And Burnley's not a big town.
No.
I think the population was about 70,000 or something like that. And literally the whole town, everybody was there. I think
there was more people on the streets of Burnley than actually lived in Burnley.
It was. I think that's true. It was crazy. But it was a similar sort of atmosphere. Everyone was so happy.
Celebrating it.
And that's the good thing when you realise you're representing not just yourselves, but a town, a group of people and what it means to people. And it was something similar last night. You could see the pride they had for their city.
Yeah.
It was special to be. We lucked out with the timing that we were here. Yeah. Really lucky.
The magic of sports, right? It's the thing that gets everyone together. And so moving on to Villa and Derby today. That was a magical moment for Villa. What are your thoughts on the match?
I thought it was quite an entertaining playoff final, Sean. I thought that the two teams obviously have a lot of quality. I think Villa managed the game better than Derby. I thought they got their tactics right. I thought they had probably the better performers on the day as well, and they deserved the victory. But credit to Derby, they ran them close. When Villa went 2-0 up, I turned to Wade and the guys and just said game over, and and Derby made it a game. They kept it going right to the very end, getting the goal back, and it was exciting. I thought it was kind of end-to-end stuff, but Derby, we were a bit disappointed with their tactics a bit. We thought they were a little bit narrow.
I thought it was clever what they did. I haven't seen them play a diamond very much this season, and I'm not sure what I'm on my pro license with Frank and Jody. It'd be interesting if it's not too raw. It'd be interesting to get the opportunity. It'd be great to pick their brains and say, well, what it did, they really crowded the middle of the pitch, and I thought what it did really well was nullify Grealish,
right?
Who's so dangerous, and you hardly saw Grealish. And Derby that gave them all the possession, but I thought the possession was where Villa wanted it, and it was comfortable, and it was in front of them, and Villa controlled the game without having the ball, and Villa forced Derby wide. And I'm not being disrespectful because he was probably the best left back I ever played against or came near, but Ashley Cole's 38. If he's going to be your
same engine,
he's going to be your outlet wide. He's not going to get behind the back of people, and so Derby everything had to go through the middle, and they were trying to be so intricate. And it's like Stevie said, I think when it's like that and you're cancelling each other out, you're looking for the big performers and somebody to step up. And I thought El Ghazi probably looked the most likely on the day.
Yeah, El Ghazi was best player in the park. He was very direct. First time I've seen him closely, but really exciting player. Has some good pedigree. Was in Ajax and plays for Lille. He's only on loan at Aston Villa, but he looks like a really good player. Strong, physical, quick, direct. A lot of qualities to his game.
Do you think that that's something that they're looking at for a long-term position and bringing him back on loan?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm by no means an expert in the Championship. Not seen every game, but what I saw today was he has to come back. He looks like he's got something about him.
I think it's a big problem for him,
right? Because
their team that started, they got the two centre halves on loan,
right?
El Ghazi's on loan, Tammy Abraham's on loan.
Yeah, they're one of the most important players, really.
Important players, but also you're going to want to go again. You're going to want to strengthen. So how much of your budget's going to be taken up on trying to recruit those 4 or 5, and then you've got to add on top of those. So, but that's a trend in the Championship. You look at Derby. Derby have got some of but Mount, Wilson, Tamori, they're all on loan. It's
sort of the easiest way to get the quality, isn't it? Because you've got these young lads on, big clubs, can't get into their first teams, and so the Championship managers are doing a good job of recruiting them and getting them games, getting them experience. But you're right, if you want to take that to the next level, you actually step up to the Premier League. It's going to cost you 10, 15, 20 million for some of the guys, probably, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And how do you strengthen on top of that? But you touched on it there. It's brilliant for the players.
Yeah,
we were talking about Tamori because he's Canadian. He's Canadian born.
Yes.
But
he was exceptional today.
We've obviously stolen him.
English have done the usual, just grabbed them and took them for themselves.
We'll take anyone. Did you qualify for England?
No. I would never have played for England.
We didn't take you.
I don't think I would have got selected, but I certainly would never have played if I was selected.
But we were talking about he's had a year in a really, really tough league, and he's played a season alongside. He's either going to be alongside Richie Keogh, who's been around the block, or he's going to be alongside Curtis, who we know.
Curtis Davies,
I think for a development standpoint, that's invaluable. He's been at a big club. Derby's a big club, big pressure, big crowds every week. He's playing alongside an experienced pro that he can mop loads up off.
Yeah.
The experience he's had over this year will be invaluable. And then it's what they want to do with him next year. Do Chelsea want to take him back? They want to put him in the Premier League?
Yeah.
Gives Derby a problem.
No, that's definitely, it's one of those questions that you guys were sort of touching on, is like, where does Villa get the money and go? Is Jack Grealish is gone? Are they going to then end up selling him so that they can then bring in money to then go out and get other players? Is he the player that's going to be moving?
Well, I think it'll be hard to keep him if you have like a Tottenham Hotspur, someone come and call in. It seems like Spurs really like Grealish, but they need to keep him, don't they? They really have to fight very hard to keep him for at least one season. Let's not forget Villa are a huge club. They should have some money. They have some resources and might. They should spend a bit of money to try and stay in the Premier League. But I think that it would be dangerous to lose anybody. Now, if you start to get offered 60, 70 million, I don't know what the number would be, then you're right, Sean. Do you say, okay, we'll let them go and we'll bring in 3 really good players rather than have that one superstar? So that's the question for them. I just hope that I just like the way Villa have been in tremendous form. They've been the form team for, what was that, about 15, 16 games now? They've been exceptional. And they've got something going under Dean Smith, don't they? And John Terry. They really have a togetherness and a fight and a determination. And I hope they stick to that. Whoever they bring in, I hope they stick to that kind of identity that they've really created in the last few games and months.
He's a top manager. He is a top manager. What's
his strengths?
He's actually quite innovative.
Right.
He was at Brentford. They played really good football. He was at Walsall before that. Really good football. He's innovative, but he came presented recently. A course I was on. He came and spoke, and I think he started at Walsall, and he said that he was made captain at 19-20.
Right.
And it's a really experienced squad, natural leaders. He didn't understand why he was made captain. He said, but he's just found over time that the theme of the talk and the module was leadership.
Right.
And he was saying that it came natural to him.
He's just a leader, yeah.
He's a leader. I think he's a normal guy. He can engage with players. He's approachable. But he's got that, the best managers can be personable, but they can be authoritative when they need to.
They draw the line.
And that's the vibe I got off him.
Right.
That you could sort of tell he was approachable, he was friendly, you could imagine having a conversation with him, you could go and question him, you could pick his brains, but when he said, "No, this is it, this is what we're doing," and there was a lot of talk about John Terry going back there, about would it overshadow him, would it overawe him, and you got to think the way he's, not say he's managed that, but it's outstanding really. He's got that much belief in himself, in his presence. He can handle that situation perfectly. It's funny what you're saying about Grealish. I think he'll stay.
Do you?
I think it's so hard to get. He's the one player, if you take the loans out of it, he's the one player I think who is a difference maker for them. Yeah. I think it's so hard to find that in the Premier League. You look at a massive club like Newcastle, and they've had to come over here to get Almiron. Yeah. I think Dean Smith is a Villa fan. Jack Grealish is a massive Villa fan. Mm-hmm. We played against. I was at Bristol City, and he was on loan at Notts County. I was on loan from Birmingham, and I had no idea who he was. I don't even know if I knew he was on loan. And he's levered me. and I'm like, I'm 35, 36, and he's 18, 19. Like, what are you? Come on, what are you playing at? And he's called me something I can't say. Like, you blue nose. So I've got about
proper Villa guy, yeah.
Proper Villa. I've got about 5 minutes. I went, what's you drugs? What's going on? And he was, I'm Villa, me. I'm Villa. Oh, good for you, pal. But he's proper Villa. Yeah. And I think he's they've made him captain, which is a smart move. I agree with you. I think if a Tottenham or someone comes in and say Tottenham win the Champions League and Tottenham come for it, it's hard to knock that back. Yeah. But I think they might pull out all the stops emotionally and financially, everything else to keep him for another year.
Yeah, so you guys mentioned that Villa, you feel like they're a bigger club. They're not a yo-yo team. So what do you see for them in 2019, 2020? Do you see them fighting for, or do you think that they're going to try to maybe get into the mid-table? Obviously, it's so early. It's fresh.
It's hard to say. You know, when you come up from the Championship, you have to recruit. And if you come up through the playoffs, you've had problems throughout the season. You're not, by no means the complete team. We touched on the loan signings have really helped. Mings has been terrific at the back for them. That was a tremendous signing into the new year. And so, getting the guys back is important. Spending a bit of money on the right players. But I was promoted twice from the Championship. Once as the champions with Sunderland in, I think it was 04-05, and then obviously playoff with Burnley in 09. And the first time we changed a lot of things, and we took away that spirit and that togetherness that Sunderland had. We weren't the best players, but we had a real way of playing, and we had a real bond and togetherness, and we signed 7 or 8 decent players, but I think we should have signed 2 or 3 really good players to help the team. And then when we went up with Burnley, we signed 3 or 4 decent players, no disrespect to any of the guys, to add to the quality that we had, but we kept that spirit. We brought the guys into the club and the way of playing and the culture that we had built there. And we were excellent up until Christmas, and the New Year we lost Stone Coyle, we brought in Brian Laws, and things went off the rails a little bit. But I think that any club that comes up has to keep that identity and that culture that has got them there, and Dean Smith and John Terry have it going at Aston Villa. As long as they keep that and they recruit with that in mind, I think they'll be fine, Wade.
Yeah, I think they just had what you were talking about there. I think they just had 2 or 3 of real quality, because they've got the basis of a good squad already. Yeah. They've had a funny season. They had an embargo at the start of the year, I think. We played them pre-season behind closed doors. Their first team against our first team at Stoke. I'm coaching at Stoke. And I speak to Colin Coldwood.
Yeah.
Colin was there. Colin coached us at Birmingham. And they couldn't bring people in. So they've had a little bit of a unbalanced squad. And when they got to January, they've managed to rectify that with loans. But they've got some good players. Got some really good players, and I think they'll bring in. They won't be wholesale changes. I think they'll keep the dynamic. They'll keep the group they've got, and they'll try and add 2 or 3 of real quality.
Yeah,
if they do that, I think they'll be okay. I think of the 3 promoted teams, I think I fancy them to have the best chance.
Yeah, I think so. Just with the club that they are, I'm just looking at their team today, and I know some of them are on loan, but Mings has Premier League experience. Neil Taylor, El Mohammadi, Hourahan's played a bit in the Premier League. Grealish has had a taste at Adoma.
You look at
Abraham. You
look at their bench. They got Lansbury on the bench, who is a good player. They got Jonathan Codger, who was at Bristol City with me, good player. So they won't bring
Glenn
in
Whelan.
Got people who've been around
there,
and
done it.
They won't bring in loads of. I was going to say journeyman, not disrespectful. They won't bring in average. I think they'll go and they'll recruit 2 or 3 difference makers.
Yeah.
Excellent. Moving on to BMO Field.
Yeah.
Stevie, you were at the game last night.
Yes.
Obviously, Oso, Bradley, Pizzuelo was missing from the 11, but they should have gotten the result, right?
They should have after the start. They started the game really well. I was impressed. Something as simple as a kickoff, which bugs me a bit with TFC when they go back and they start playing slow passes right away. It just sets the tone. I'm a big guy for that kind of thing at the start of the game. Liam Fraser got the ball, he played it long, it went out for a throw in, they backed it in, they set the tone really early, and that was impressive. And I think they caught San Jose a little bit cold, which is what you have to do when you get a team coming from the west. Never easy to travel across the coast to play an interconference game. So everything was right. They got the opening goal, and then all of a sudden they drop off their energy a little bit. They lose a bit of belief. The shape gets a wee bit ragged, and they allow San Jose belief and into the game. And there's another big error. There's just these defensive errors. I mentioned at the end of the broadcast, but I'll say it again. We were talking with Greg Van, as we do before every single game, and we go through players and formations, what he expects from the opposition, what he wants from his team, and he's great because he always gives us his time and gives us a lot of help that we bring out in the broadcast. And after we went through 10 minutes of the tactics and technical side of the game, Greg and I had a laugh because we basically said, well, actually at the end of the day, all that actually matters is what happens in both boxes, how you defend your box and how you attack the ball in the opposition box. And that's what the game is all about. A master marksman in Wondolowski who just finds space, movement at the right time, sniffs a goal, and defenders who just don't really want to defend. Like, they don't defend well enough. They're not thinking, over my dead body, is this ball going to go in the goal? And that was a key difference between the sides.
Yeah, it was the first goal last night and the first goal in the playoff final today were pretty similar.
Yeah.
Goal scorer took up a really good position where he could see ball and the defender.
Yeah.
Waited, and then as soon as the defender turns and looks for the player, you're dead. And he's made his dart on him. I think he took the goal really well. I only saw the first half. And similar to you, when it first started, it's really interesting what San Jose,
the man for man,
they do.
Yeah.
They go man for man all over the pitch, and TFC, I say TFC, I sound like a local. TFC were really well prepped for it.
Yeah.
Because you could see the game plan. The 2 wingers went really wide, occupied the fullbacks, opened up a massive gap to play into Altidore.
Yeah.
So
runners off them.
If you go man for man, because I think, football goes in cycles. I think there'll be the Champions League semi when Llorente came on and he changed the game because Ajax go full press.
Go direct.
So all of a sudden you've got a target man, you miss that out, you go into target man, they can't deal with it, and you play off there, and you're in the final third facing the opposition's goal. And that to me looked like the game plan. You go into outer door and you make runs off him. So I thought tactically it was really good. I just don't think they executed it very well. So I was talking to you about it yesterday, and I'm saying I'm watching it from up above, and there's a massive gap to play into outer door, and the two midfielders are so keen to get on the ball. They go and block the passing line.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, instead of playing a really simple pass into centre forward, you've got to loft it in the end. It becomes a fight ball, and the centre half can. But at the first 15 minutes I'm watching it, I'm thinking, well, if you go man for man all over the pitch, you've got to dominate your opponent. Yeah. I was thinking, I'm not sure how they're going to cope with out a door, 1v1, with the centre half, he's too strong. And the right winger who scored had the beating the left back.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, wow, San Jose are going to have to change. You can't keep leaving him. He's torturing there. But to be fair, I was really impressed with them. I thought they were ballsy. Yeah. They were really aggressive. They stuck to their guns. They ended up getting on top of Toronto individually. And when they did have the ball, they were really expansive. And simple as it is, people ran forward. They kept hitting that big diag wide.
Yeah. Godoy had it 5 or 6 times. He was excellent in the middle of the park. Jackson Ewell as well was very impressive. He's been having a fantastic season with San Jose. And I mean, the history here is that Matias Almeida, of course, coached Chivas Guadalajara, who TFC played in last year's CONCACAF Champions League. So Greg Vanney knew what was coming. Yeah, they know this man-for-man way. Yeah. They prepared for it when they played Chivas in 2 games, and so Greg Vanney looked at his training notes and he devised similar type sessions to that, and you could see that they'd done their homework. They were more prepared than most MLS teams for what was coming into town.
Tactically, I found it really interesting. It's like when you kills you a bit because I'm a football fan. First and foremost, I'm a fan. I just love watching football, but you end up you can't enjoy a game for enjoying. You end up analysing it, breaking it down, but tactically I thought it was fascinating. It was really interesting.
You were right in saying about that big gap though. There was a couple of things that I thought that it was a really good job done by Cummings and Youngworth. They were prepared for it, of course. That's their 2v1 on the field, is in the centre back area. And I thought Altidore could have done better. I thought he got caught in his heels a lot of times. I thought his movement was pretty average on the night. And I think that was a big part of it, Sean, because everything happens when it goes into him with some kind of quality, and then you get the runners. And there was another thing that really stuck out to me, and Delgado's energy in the first 30 minutes was incredible. De Leon was trying to make runs. Larea was very effective, and I just thought, can they keep this up?
You had mentioned that in the broadcast, and I was going to bring that up. It's like they were playing so quick and so pacey that it's like, are they going to be able to? They've played so many games in the last 15. It's like they're already tired legs. Can they continue to go? So
this is why I think Almeida's San Jose Earthquakes are playing really well now. They lost the first 4 games. They lost heavily in a few of the games as he was trying to bed in this way of playing. And now we're starting to see the real San Jose and certainly his mark on that team. And because they know what's coming, and because what he knows specifically what's needed to play like that, their fitness levels are off the charts. And I think they proved they were fitter than TFC. Yeah. And TFC's game plan was probably the right game plan, but they couldn't keep it up for 90 minutes. And so for me, I think that was maybe a minor error, where if maybe Greg Vanney thought his team could keep it up for 90 minutes, but if you can't, then you've got to come up with 2 different plans between the first half's that all energy, second half something a little bit different, a little bit more intricate. I'm still disappointed with TFC getting the ball into the box. I never see them cross the ball. And Terence Boyd came on. I thought he had one of his better games in a TFC shirt. Get the ball into him. He's a guy that wants to attack crosses. I don't think he got to attack one cross. The one near the end that was low, he slid in at the back post, was maybe his only real chance. But get the ball into the box for him. And I just think that was a missing factor in the game, Sean.
Yeah, that was an interesting point, is that at the end of the game, they had 3 forwards up top. You had Altidore, you had Hamilton, and you had Boyd. And it's where were the crosses going to come in through, because it felt like
took Jordan off.
And Jordan was now playing on the wing, and he's not a guy that's going to service the cross in. So it felt like they lost their identity, or at least what they were planning to do. With Josie, I know he's a big body and he's a monster, but I think that's something that he's always sort of struggled with, because they see how big he is. Is he a true target man, or is he a guy that goes off the ball?
I thought I've seen him a few times without him. I think he's been better than he was last night. I thought he was poor last night. I thought he killed it both ways. Because you've got if your whole game plan is to go into your centre forward and make runs off him, the ball has to stick. And if you're going to be static for the frame he's got and the size he is, if you're going to be still, you need to pin. And he could have done. He could bully the centre half. He could have pinned him. Or you have to be in the game. You have to be engaged. And you have to be alive. And you have to watch the play develop. And you're looking for any opportunity for your teammates to play forward. And as soon as you do, you nip into position and you're on the same wavelength. And I didn't think he did that well enough. So when they had the ball, the game plan broke down a little bit on that side. And when they didn't have the ball, he looked like he either. I know he's just come back from injury. Is that right?
Yeah.
So I don't know whether he had the condition or the willingness to press the ball.
Well,
it was so easy for San Jose to build and go wide and get round the back because there was no pressure to stop those long passes.
That's the key with him though, Wade. When he gets stop-start with his forearm, with his injuries, then his fitness levels go. He's a big guy. You mentioned it, Sean, and when he's not fit, he's nowhere near the player he is. When he was at his best in 16 and 17 playoffs, he was supremely fit. He was all over the field. He's impossible to play against in MLS when he's like that, but he's lacking in fitness and
you have to take that hit on a couple of games to get him up to speed.
Yeah, get him up to speed, get him pushing along. But because he's a bit fragile, it's hard to push him to that level.
Break down
It
again.
needs to come sort of slowly, and they need that consistency, just training every single day. And the other thing that I think with Josie, and no disrespect with this, but he's a big game player, and in fairness, Sunday night game at BMO Field the end of May is not really a big game. I'm sorry, we've still got a problem with the regular season in MLS, but it's getting better, and TFC are missing opportunities here, and whether they make the playoffs or not, I think at the moment it's probably 50-50, but you need to make the playoffs in a higher position, otherwise you're going to be away from home the whole time, and it's going to be almost impossible to win the MLS Cup.
They're giving up a lot of goals.
Yeah.
They're 1.8 goals per game, which is the worst
not good enough.
In their history, and they've had some pretty rough spells.
Are they contenders? Would they be contenders this year?
I don't think so at this moment, in my opinion personally. Now they're in a weaker Eastern Conference, so can they get to MLS Cup? I think so, but you look at the West, there's LAFC are by far and away the most dominant team in MLS. It's theirs to lose even at this point. And you look at Seattle, Minnesota, Houston, San Jose. I was impressed. I think there's 5 or 6 teams in the West that are above anybody in the East, in my opinion, at the moment.
I think you're completely right. I think that the big thing is if Toronto brings anyone in the next window, that's when you can find out if they're going to be contenders or not. I think
need a big signing or two.
Yeah, they need to, because when Pozuelo isn't in there, and also to an extent, but there was no real creativity in the center of the park. And while Fraser did try to make darting runs, and I thought he was a bright spot for such a young player and doesn't have a lot of opportunity to play without Bradley. So I think he stepped up and put in a good shift. There was a couple wayward passes that didn't go the right way, but I still think that he pushed well. Any other bright spots from Toronto FC?
Larea was good for me, especially in the first half. Very direct, he's got good feet. He's got a bit more dribbling ability and jink to his game than I expected. So I'd like to see him get more chances higher up. I know he played the first few games at right back this season, so I think he's better on the right hand side there. Like I said, Delgado had a lot of energy at the start and made some good movements. He was decent for me. Liam Fraser was probably a standout. He was excellent. He's a smart football player, and he'll get better, but he needs games. Toronto FC have to commit to the lad. They have to get him games. I know it's hard. The captain plays in that position, but Liam Fraser needs to play minutes. Maybe it's time for Michael Bradley to rest some games. He never gets injured, but he's picked up this hamstring, so he's getting to that stage in his career. Maybe he gets rested some games, or he plays alongside Michael Bradley, Liam Fraser and Bradley in the base of the midfield. I'm trying to think the other bright spots. I thought Morrow was way. I don't like just Morrow in left midfield. It's wasted. He's one of the best left backs in the league. Why move him there? Nothing against Ashton Morgan. Ash was solid enough, but Morrow's a left back. You need to find or play someone else there. I can't think of any. El De Leon never really found a way into the game, Sean. So it was much the same for TFC. It was too predictable. Yeah,
fair enough. And then on Friday, we'll do this quickly before we move to headlines. You were on the call for the Impact LAFC.
Yeah.
Obviously, it was one-way street for most of the game. What did you think about LAFC? Obviously, they're the best team in the league, right?
They're the best team I've ever seen in MLS.
Wow.
And it's early to say that. I think the 13 and 14 Galaxy teams when I first came to North America were sensational. Really, really good teams with Sarvas and Janino in the midfield, the way they stretched, especially at the StubHub in Carson. And you know, you had Robbie Keane and you had the quality. Zardes played alongside them. They were solid at the back with Gonzalez. That was a phenomenal team. TFC were excellent in 17. A really great team and a focused team that had big players for big moments. And then you had Atlanta last year, who had one of the league's best ever players in Miguel Almiron, and you had a goal scorer like Joseph Martinez who knew what they were doing and were explosive and vertical and dynamic on the counter-attack. They were another brilliant team. This team has everything. This team has a shaky goalkeeper and two experienced but average fullbacks, or a few fullbacks. You know, that I think there's vulnerabilities in the fullbacks area and there's vulnerabilities with the goalkeeper, and then there's two really good centre halves at this level in Zimmerman and Segura. What a signing Segura's been. He brings an aggression and determination to the defensive play. He steps into things and he starts attacks so much with his quality defending, and then playing it nice and simple. And boy, would TFC love a player like that just now, just someone who's an out and out defender. You have Atuesta, the young Colombian, who's probably the best hold midfielder in MLS. I don't think it's going to be long till he's in Europe. He's that good. He's only 21 years old and just turned, so the improvements in him every single game. Mark Anthony Kaye, the Canadian international's brilliant. Latif Blessing,
he's been incredible this
What's
year.
he like? He looks like a different player, doesn't he?
Oh, he's just a buzzsaw that's just always in your face, and it's great.
Unbelievable pressure, starts the press by his energy. Used to play in a wide area in Kansas City, Wade, but honestly, this guy's unbelievable. He's playing more central now, and he initiates every single press, a bit like Lallana did in his heyday. Remember that? He was unbelievable. He would go and he would press, and it comes for Blessing. His energy's phenomenal. And then you got the front areas, and maybe a striker away from being really special. But you got Rossi and Vela in the wide areas, and whenever they break and you win the ball so high,
Vela plays wide.
Vela plays on the right. If they float around, they interchange, but he plays off the right, and he comes inside. What a player!
You said that you think they do well at home.
Yeah,
you said that team. You think they do well.
I think that side would be close to winning the championship.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I do.
That's interesting.
I do. They've got everything. I have to say before I forget, they're unbelievably coached.
Yes.
They're tactics, their formation, the movement, the way that they're coached is exceptional. The fullbacks were coming inside. It was leaving 1v1s for their best two players, and Rossi and Vela. The movement between Atuesta and Mark Anthony Kaye. Sometimes Atuesta's deep, then Kaye, a bit of rotation for him to come in. The way that they press, the way that they sniff danger, win the ball back within 3 or 4 seconds every time they give it away. Against most teams, certainly on Friday night against Montreal Impact, and they win it in good areas, and then it's one ball into Vela, Rossi again, or Ramirez who had a good game, and they punish you. So they've got just about everything. Like I said, I think the goalkeeper's shaky. He came for a few things. I'm not so sure about him. Maybe when the playoffs come and the pressure ramps up and they're expected to win, he might be a problem, but I can't actually see how they're not going to win it at this point, and it's so early to say, but they're just rolling along and they look like their confidence is on the ceiling.
Yeah, you were even saying that their fullbacks are a little bit of their weaker, but even Tristan Blackman, who came in, contributed and scored a goal, and it was nice to see.
He was very impressive.
Yeah, he was great in the USL last year. I watched him in the finals, and it's like,
was he?
Yeah, he's a big body, moves up and down.
They have Betashure and Harvey, who are experienced MLS guys, and they have a guy on loan from QPR called Hamalainen, who's he's got American heritage. I think maybe his mum and dad are American, but he can play for Finland as well. So he's on loan, and he's quite an interesting player. So
can we need him?
Yeah, you might need them. So there's so much to like about them. And I think they're going to win the regular season, so they're going to be at home every single game, and that stadium is electric. It's given them an extra push, and you can imagine it for the playoffs. It's going to be unbelievable atmosphere. So I'll be shocked at this stage if they don't win MLS Cup.
Yeah, no, that stadium is a fortress. Moving on to headlines. Massimo Allegri claims that Juventus' successor will be a manager of Manchester, amid speculation linking Pep Guardiola to his shock move to Turin. This isn't happening, right?
David Moyes, I think it might be.
Oh.
I'm only joking.
Jose?
Maybe.
Mourinho?
I wouldn't be shocked with Mourinho.
I wouldn't.
Not a bad shout.
Conte's just gone to Inter.
Yeah.
He's got a unbelievable record in Italy.
Yeah,
His cachet there is really high. Juventus are a huge club.
Which is what they want.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked. I would be flabbergasted if it was Pep Guardiola.
I can't see it.
That's not going to happen. He's not leaving Man City at this point, is he?
I live in Manchester, and you see what's going on at City, and it's incredible. Like the
Special,
training ground. I know I hate the word project. Projects makes it sound like, but what they're building there, the infrastructure, I know he's had a short spell at clubs, hasn't he? Like he normally gets to 3 years, and he looks that guy. He puts so much into it.
He burns out a bit. He needs a break.
But if there was one place where I think he was going to spend a long time at, I think it'll be City, because he's got it's really rare you can go into a club that size and you can put in the infrastructure and the people around it that you want. He's pretty much shaped Man City in his image. He's done it how you want. And you go into, I thought he'd go to United. Like, you know, when because they were both looking for managers at the same time, I was thinking, Guardiola fits United, that history, that heritage. And he went to Man City, and I was thinking, okay, with hindsight, he wouldn't have been able to go into Manchester United and shape it in the same way he has City. No. City is his club now. Yeah. And if there's one place I think he's going to stay and really build and see the fruits of it, I think it's there. Because he's got I can't pronounce his name, but it's Tiki
Begiristan.
Yep. And he's got the coaching staff. He's virtually designed the training ground. Which is it's training ground. It's a village. It's like a city within the city. It's incredible,
unbelievable. Never seen anything like it.
So me personally, I think he'll be at City for the foreseeable future.
Moving on to the Champions League final, June 1st, Tottenham-Liverpool. How do you guys see this match play out, and how can either team win on the day?
We had a good chat about this earlier, actually, and we were both agreeing that as the second half was happening between Spurs and Ajax, I thought at that moment that Liverpool would definitely beat Ajax in the final. I think we were starting to see the vulnerabilities in an excellent side, but the way that a team like Liverpool with their experience and power and pace would have hurt Ajax was clear for me, and I think Klopp would have devised a plan that they would have won that game. And then, of course, Lucas Moura had other things to say, and he scored that goal. And I think probably Klopp thought, the last thing I want is to play an English team.
100%.
Play against a team like Spurs, who have done well against us in recent years, who have caused us a lot of problems. Two teams don't really fit, actually. When they play against each other, normally one dominates the other, you know, even if it's just for a half.
They do, yeah.
They get on top because they're two of the brightest minds in the game, and they have very technical players. And so once a certain tactic's working, it's dominating the other side. So it's a hard, my sort of head says Liverpool, and I think that they're such a good team, they deserve a trophy. But Pochettino he's a genius, Wade, isn't he? And it'll be tough.
Liverpool only play one way.
Yeah.
They very rarely change. They changed in the semi and played a bit of a way at the new camp. Yeah. And it didn't work at all.
Yeah.
It was a disaster. So you know exactly what Liverpool are going to do. You know the system they're going to play. You know one of the midfielders are going to drop into fullback to get on the ball. You know that Firmino's going to drop in, and
yeah.
Tottenham can change all the time. Tottenham, I was at the game last year at Anfield when Yama scored the worldie.
Yeah.
And the first half, Liverpool murdered them. And Tottenham came out, changed the system, and absolutely dominated the second half.
Yeah.
It was such a good game. And if the Champions League final is anything like that, it'll be a treat. And it's really difficult to call. I agree with Stevie that if it was Liverpool Ajax, I'd be back in Liverpool all day. But it being two English teams, I think makes it a completely different animal. And you said it earlier, and I think it's a great point. Liverpool deserve a trophy.
Yeah.
For the season they've had, they deserve a trophy. But for some reason, I got a naggy feeling for Tottenham. I don't know why, but I think Tottenham will do it.
Yeah. You spent some time with Michel Salgado recently in one of your courses, and he was telling you something interesting about the Champions League final.
He said the same thing. He pretty much reiterated what you just said, and we were watching it. It was amazing, actually. We were watching it. We were really lucky. I was on an exchange. So there was the English pro licensed coaches and the Spanish. So we sat there with Xabi Alonso, Salgado, Cambiasso, Raul, and we're in the bar, and I'm telling
most
them,
of them have won it before as well.
They've all sat there, they've won World Cup, but that's what I love about football.
Yeah.
So we're sat there, and I'm with these guys, and they're getting into it like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah.
And they were amazing games. Like, both legs were amazing games.
Of course.
But we're watching Tottenham, and they're jumping around the room, and you're thinking, that's why this game is...
it's the
these
best in the
guys have
world.
been and seen and done everything. And their breath's taken away by this.
Yeah.
But anyway, I digress. So speaking to Salgado afterwards, and he said similar. He said, Liverpool Ajax, Liverpool all day. He said he played in an all-Spanish Champions League final, and he said it's completely
Real
different.
Madrid and Valencia.
Real Madrid and
Paris,
Valencia,
I think it was.
And he said it changes everything. He says completely different feel, completely different
Feel like
vibe.
it's a domestic game.
Yeah, he felt like a domestic game, and he said, and now he couldn't tell 50-50, no idea which way it will go, and it's going to be great. It'll be brilliant.
Some game.
Be fantastic.
I don't know if I'll be here on Monday.
Oh,
Either way, the results.
Sean's a big Spurs fan.
Oh, you really?
Yeah. I don't feel good going into it, but I've
You
said
never
that,
feels
but
good.
I've-
He's the
but
most
I've said that in
negative
this-
Spurs fan you've ever met in your life.
The only thing, I'm a Southampton fan. So we've got more players on the pitch than anybody else. It's all our team. Ridiculous.
Moving on, Napoli are eyeing both Nathaniel Klein and Kieran Trippier at fullback next season. Which player do you think suits Napoli a bit more, Klein or Trippier?
Don't know. I don't like the fit of either of these two players in Serie A, to be honest. Klein's a player. They're both really good players. I think Trippier's had a difficult season. He reached his pinnacle with his goal against Croatia in the World Cup last summer, and I think he's had it tough a bit this year. I still think he's a really good player. I just don't know if he's top player. Klein's had his injuries. He struggled a bit at Bournemouth, even on loan. So I don't know about that one either. Wade, Trippier a little bit better than me. Both these guys better than me, I think.
Well, Klein's another Southampton player.
Yeah.
I think Klein's had a rough couple of years. He's had like 18 months where he's had a lot of injuries. I think Kieran's overtaken him. But I agree with you. I think Kieran's had 3 or 4 months where maybe naturally where he's tailed off a little bit, and it does happen. He's been phenomenal for 2 years. He's had the high of the World Cup. He's probably played consistently for a couple of seasons now, and maybe it's just catching up with him a tiny bit. But I'm reluctant to criticise him because he's a great guy.
Yeah, he's your teammate at Burnley for a bit.
He's my teammate at Burnley. He's a brilliant lad, and we were together at Burnley in the Championship, and now it's
amazing.
I'm in the pub watching him score in the World Cup semi-final, and I'm jumping all over the room, and he's going to play in the Champions League final.
Amazing.
So listen, if I had to pick one out of the two of them, I would 100% take Kieran. But I agree with you. I think Kieran will be at Tottenham next year as well.
Yep.
Fair enough. Moving on to MLS for a couple retirement announcements. MLS great Chad Marshall announced his retirement this week. You had a chance to play against him.
Yeah.
Thoughts on Chad before I get to an interesting stat?
Great guy. Chad's a wonderful guy. I've played against him before. I have a mutual friend in Duncan Houghton who was my coach here when I first came to Toronto. A good mate of mine who played with Chad in Columbus. Very close, and so I feel like I probably know him better than I actually do, just through Duncan. But great guy. What you see is what you get. Good leader. Positionally, a brilliant centre half in the MLS. Was always in the right place. I think Chad would be first to say he didn't have the most attributes as a player, but he made the best out of them, and they're my favourite kind of players. And I think he won Defender of the Year 3 times in a row, so that tells you everything you need to know. 2 MLS Cups, 1 with Seattle, 1 with Columbus, 2 different teams, which I think is important to recognise as well. And terrific guy, terrific player.
So when I was talking about the stat, it went around Twitter that he only received 18 yellow cards in 16 years, 409 games.
Yeah.
So that made me sort of go down another path and see how many yellows you had.
Okay.
So you played one game more. You played 410.
Right.
But how many yellow cards do you think you had in your career?
I'd say 410 games. What would you say, Wade? Like 78?
You seem to get booked every game.
78, no? More? Higher than lower than 78. Let's play a bit of...
Did you get a ban season?
Right.
Did you get banned every season?
Nearly every season.
So you're looking at least five
a year.
At least 5. 60.
What do you?
78, I said.
57.
57.
No way.
57. There we go.
Well done.
Do you know how many Reds you
What do I
had?
win?
Reds, I'd say 8 or 9.
I remember one at Preston. that was hilarious.
Yeah, you nailed it. 8.
8 Reds.
Yeah. 6 straight.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Straight Reds, but in fairness to me, they were never for violent conduct. They were always for last. Yeah, they were always for last man being too slow.
Why is that, mate? I didn't want to say it. I didn't want to say that.
Pulling the guy back, handballs on the line. I remember a couple of them. I got one in the cup.
He was a good
Everton.
player. Yeah. He was a very, very good player. And I thought it'd be nice for somebody else to say he was a good player instead of him. Nice for you listeners to hear that. Yeah. Instead of him saying it every week.
I got to travel with Stevie for 2014. I was running social media for the team, and gosh, best captain. He was just made everyone feel he was
Brilliant
great.
Captain.
Brilliant. And then last, DeMarcus Beasley also announced he'd be hanging up the boots at the end of this season. Did you guys ever cross paths with DeMarcus during the times?
Yeah, I think we did. I think I might have played against him when he was at Man City and Houston, but I can't remember. I've headed too many balls, but great pro as well. Played higher up early in his career. Had a spell at Rangers where a few of my mates played with and against him, and had great things to say about his professionalism, his quality. And came back to MLS and was a credit to himself right till the very end. He just does things right, doesn't he, Shawnee? And he's consistent, and good luck to him. I think he'll have a career, whether it's in coaching or front office within MLS. To me, he's an absolute certainty to be in some kind of role with a club in MLS.
That's some achievement, isn't it?
Yeah.
20 years is something. We played with a guy. We played with Grezza, who played to
1,000
41.
1,000 games, eh?
And I used to carpool with him. And I'd be picking his brain saying, well, how are you keep doing it? And he said, I just have to train at my maximum every day. So I'm imagining if the Beasley's played for 20 years, he's had a similar mentality, which is something you can have a lot of admiration for, to retain that consistency day in and day out for 20 years. So fair play to him. Yeah,
it's incredible just to think about when he started, because I think he started it when he was 16 or 17 years old, and then now has made it all the way through, and sort of seen MLS from like 1998 was on that, like around that Chicago squad, and then now seeing him still through it all. It's like I think he's the only guy that's sort of seen MLS version 1 to MLS version whatever we want to call it, but it's been pretty incredible. Yeah,
and I love that, Sean. I think that's really a great point there, where you think about a guy who was there when it was next to nothing, went away, had a great career in Europe, then came back and played the part in this next phase, 2.0 or 4.0, whatever it is now. And I think that's important to say. And again, I reiterate, most of these guys have done it. The Parkhurst's another one that I can think of. Michael Bradley, Josie, they come back. And they don't just come back to swanny around. They come back to win or to impact their team, to impact their community again. And DeMarcus Beasley's done that in Houston. He's impacted his team. He's brought that winning mentality, that professionalism that you learn in football, and you certainly learn in Europe. Brought it back to MLS and took it on another level.
Exactly. Moving on to the mailbag, it's time for Ask AFP, so make sure you use the hashtag AskAFP to send in your questions. We've got a few before we get out of here. Evan asks, which manager had the most influence on your careers?
I think we're probably, one of the guys we would say we were at the same team was Chris Hughton.
Chris was incredible.
Tremendous manager, wasn't he?
Yeah, and now, do you know what? When I was thinking about this question earlier, and I thought of it as playing.
Yeah.
But now you said that, and now I'm on the other side and I'm coaching. And what Chris was brilliant at was Chris was never too high and never too low.
Yeah.
He was always, emotionally, he was always in control. And no matter what happened in the game, once you came in and you spoke to Chris, you always thought we could be 3-0 down.
Yeah.
Chris was calm and relaxed. And you thought, you know what? This guy's been here, he's seen this, he knows what to do. And that's something I've tried to retain going into coaching. So Chris has influenced me in that aspect.
Yeah.
I think you know it, but every manager and every coach you come across, you take something from positive or
negative, don't you?
Yeah. Playing wise, I think you're always influenced strongly by your early coaches.
Yeah.
So I had a guy called Sean O'Driscoll at Bournemouth who, it's ridiculous. The team we had that we played in, almost everybody's gone on to coach. He was a real
teacher.
Real teacher, and obviously he was a big influence on Eddie Howe. And his big thing was getting footballers to think for themselves and make decisions, and so he produced a lot of good players and people who naturally started thinking about football and went into coaching. So he was a big influence. And then we had Cots, didn't we?
Yeah, we had Steve Cottrell,
who I came from Bournemouth.
We still talk about him at this stage,
Still talk about him. But I was at a really nice club, Bournemouth, which was comfortable and lovely place to go. It's on the coast and nice lifestyle. And Steve took me to Burnley, and Burnley's a proper working class mill industrial town. And I think it toughened me up a little bit. And when you combine the two, that's probably when I started to fulfill my potential a little bit. So everybody's had a big influence on me, but that was the formative years of my playing career. So you'd have to mention those two for me.
Yeah,
you've had some top managers. Bobby.
Well, yeah, I mean, I could tell a few of my Sir Bobby.
That's where I was trying to go with it, mate.
The podcast might be a bit too long.
Have you ever told the Russian T-shirt one?
I was a young 18, 19-year-old boy at Newcastle, and I wanted to be in the first team, and I was very driven, of course, and so I'm like, I'm going to see Bobby today, or the gaffer, and I'm going to just tell him, and I had all my points ready and set up. So I pulled him at lunchtime and I said, Gaffer, do you mind if I see you for 5 minutes? Yes, son, after lunch. See you after lunch. Okay, so I get there and I can't concentrate on anything else, any of the conversations. I'm thinking about where I want to go with this conversation when I have it with Bobby. And I was wearing this zipper tracksuit top like you did back in the day. I think I got it from Urban Outfitters or somewhere, and it was a Russian top. It had the old Soviet Union badge and it had CCCP on it. So it was, I thought it was like stylish top at the time, and I go into this meeting with Bobby and at 2:00, and I walk in the room and he's like, sit down, son, sit down. I'll do his accent. And I say, okay. And I'm like, I'm furious, I'm ready to go. He said, I love your top, son. And I said, thanks, Gaffer, thanks. And he said, where did you get that top, son? From a Russian trainer? And I went, what? And they're like, did you get it from a Russian trainer? And I went, no, I bought it in Urban Outfitters. He said, it's nice that, CCCP means Russia, And I went, yeah, I know. And he said, anyway, son, what do you want to talk about? And I'm like, I don't know. He had totally took me off my train of thought. I think it was a tactic.
Genius man management.
And he took me off my train of thought. And that's the kind of guy he was. The stories are amazing. A voicemail he left me when I went back to Newcastle for a few games, my last few games ever when I'd been alone at Leeds, thanking me and saying the kind of guy that I was, the player that I was, to put all our past behind me and do the best thing, the right thing for myself and for the team.
Legend
Bobby,
in England, though.
Oh, a legend.
I don't know what the parallel would be over here, but he's loved so much back home.
The way he managed people from all walks of life was remarkable. 19-year-old lads from council estates in London, red-headed Scottish boys, adults, legends, Alan Shearer, Ronaldo, Brazilian Ronaldo, the guys, the players, the names that came through this man, the experience he had, his man management was exceptional. Some of his team talks would leave the hairs in the back of your neck standing up. He was unbelievable. The sort of, the kind of instructions he would give you, or the rally cries that he would give you.
Do you know the more people that I speak to, and the more courses you go on, they talk about being authentic, being yourself.
Yeah.
Say the best leaders in whatever industry are the people that give a sense of themselves to the people that they're trying to lead, and you'll know better than me, but that's the vibe I got off him.
Yeah.
He was he's himself.
What you see is what you get. Gets the best out of people. He was a great one. My mentor was a guy called Tommy Craig, Scottish international.
The actor from Coronation Street.
We were just with him. He wants to get in a show, by the way.
He wants to come
He's
on.
a Chef Wed fan. I says, you can only come on when your team's relevant, so get back to us. No, Tommy Craig was brilliant. He was Celtic assistant under Billy McNeil. He was at Aberdeen. He was experienced. Roy Aitken worked with him as well. I could go on and on. Walter Smith was one of my favourites, and Wade touched on a point earlier when he talked about Chris and sort of keeping everything level, Chris Hughton, and how, you know, you're never the best and you're never the worst. And Walter used to stress that to us when he was our Scotland manager. And Walter tells a story. He's in his hallway in his home in near Glasgow. He's got 2 front pages from the same newspaper. I don't need to say the paper. And I think they might even be the same journalist. And they're 3 or 4 years apart. And the first one says, Walter Smith, the best manager in Rangers history. And 3 or 4 years later it says, Walter Smith, the worst manager in Rangers history.
That's genius.
And he says, I put them in my hall because I see it every day and I remember I'm not the worst and I'm not the best. I'm somewhere in between. And what a humble guy. What a scary man. When he lost it, you sat up and you stopped talking because he was amazing. So we're lucky guys. We've experienced some of the best, and we've picked up good and bad things, and hopefully Wade's starting his coaching career, but it would stand him in good stead to be the best coach he can be and be authentic to himself.
Incredible stories. Moving on and sticking sort of with managers. Danny asks, does Steven Gerrard stay at Rangers long term, or do you think he's just there and will jump at any opportunity he gets?
Long term, I don't know really. This season, 100%. He needs to get closer to Celtic. He needs to win a trophy. I think he's in a good place. I think he likes the size of the club and the mentality. He has his challenges, and Celtic are very dominant. But I don't see him leaving anytime soon. I just don't know how long term that might be, because, you know, he has to win. He has to win something pretty quickly.
I think everyone knows the job he wants.
Yeah.
And I think he'll be plotting's the wrong word, but I think he'll be mapping out a path to that job, to Liverpool. And if he thinks that he can get Rangers in a position where they can be competitive in Europe and they can get close to Celtic and maybe overtake Celtic, if that gives him the CV he needs to go and manage Liverpool, then I think he'll stay where he is until that opportunity arises. If he doesn't believe he can quite get there, I think he'll look for the next bridging gap towards that. So
next Championship, low Prem, does he get that?
To go to be Liverpool manager, it's a tough one, isn't it?
It is, isn't it?
Are you're looking at me personally? I think you're looking at you've got the top 6, and you've got that gap underneath where you're looking at. Traditionally, you'd say Villa,
yeah.
But you traditionally say like Villa, Newcastle, Everton, those sort of clubs.
Yeah.
I'm not
he's
sure
not
he's
going to
get
get
the
the
Everton job. But I don't know. Could you go from Rangers into? It's the biggest league in the world.
Yeah,
it's really difficult to get an opportunity at one of those clubs.
Yeah.
So he's had an unbelievable career, fantastic player. He started well in management, but he's a rookie manager. Yeah. Jurgen Klopp was a manager for 15, 20 years before he got the Liverpool job, and he went via Mainz and Dortmund. And if you want to become Liverpool manager, that's a long route. That's a long road. Yeah. I don't think those owners, and it's such big business,
not going to make a sentimental decision, are they?
That's exactly what I'm grasping for,
Moving on, Dark Material asks, who is the dirtiest player you guys ever played against?
I'm going to say an unusual one. People might be surprised. Dennis Bergkamp was incredibly dirty. Elbows and little kicks and little snide moves, and it always used to really annoy me because he was an exceptional player, and I used to wonder why. And I think he just got so annoyed by people kicking him all the time. He was that good. They thought, I'm just going to hit a few people back. But I found him to be really dirty. Who else? I mean, we played against loads of wholehearted guys. I don't consider them dirty. It's the snide stuff that I don't like.
Yeah, I remember. I think Robbo wasn't. Paul Robinson wasn't, but wasn't like hard. But you knew if you had a loose touch, he was going to
challenges.
He was going to nail it. I started my career in non-league, and there was a guy called Jimmy Case.
Oh yeah,
who
Jimmy Case,
is
what a player.
He played for Liverpool in the 70s and he won 2 or 3 European Cups. Southampton, he was later. He is the toughest man I've ever seen on the pitch. He was ridiculous.
Yeah.
But you speak to anybody and they bring up Jimmy. And I remember you go against him in training. He was, I was 18 and he was playing in a game and I was playing with him and he's marking someone off a goal kick and I'm stood to the side of him and it's like August, the pitches are like this table.
Yeah.
And Jimmy's got studs on that the size of these metal studs.
The grass.
And he's getting the stud in the back of the lad's boot on his Achilles. Oh. And as soon as the ball's up, he's come down on the Achilles. Anyway, he was tough.
Yeah.
But the dirtiest was always say about when we played against Skulls.
Yeah.
And I don't want to make it a long story, but I tried everything with Skulls. I stood off him and he hit worldy passes. I went tight to him and he played round corners. I tried to stop the ball getting into him and he made runs off the back. Everything I did. So I thought the only thing left to do was kick him. So I kicked him. I have that. And then 2 minutes later, the ball's up in the air. And before I know it, I'm face down, mud all over my face. He's come right through the back of me, elbow me. I'm thinking, kicking him's not going to work either, is it?
With trouble here.
So I'm pretty sure if he wanted to, he could mix it a little bit.
Excellent. Last question before we move on. Timothy asks, who do you think takes home the Europa League on Wednesday night?
Chelsea.
You think Chelsea? I think Arsenal. I think Arsenal are a better team, and I think that they'll prove it on Wednesday night. But Chelsea are tough. It's another domestic game, isn't it? So it's anybody's 50. This one is really 50-50, isn't it?
I just think Hazard.
Yeah.
I just think Arsenal, the manager's record's ridiculous in the competition.
Of course.
Knows how to win it. The front two are really lively.
No, they're great players.
They're fantastic, and they've got a connection. You can see they enjoy playing with each other.
Yep.
I just think it could be Hazard's last game for Chelsea, and he's sensational. Yeah. And you're saying it's a 50-50 game. You're looking for a difference maker. He's the ultimate difference maker.
Yep.
That's it, everyone. That's it for this week. We'll be back next Monday. Thanks again, Wade, for coming in. It was a great
I'll be back next Monday.
KJ, just stay in Indianapolis, mate.
Tell KJ you got next Monday off, pal. Stay where you are, mate.
We miss you, mate.
Thanks so much, everyone. And we'll see you next week. Thanks to Dylan, Clay, and, of course, Christian and Stephen Caldwell. See you next week.
Thank you.